I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. This is Jody England, and you are listening to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. Welcome back, sisters. So good to be with you here in this temple of our becoming today. That is what we are going to play in, the energetic that we're going to dance together in and revel in as we remember ourselves and remember all that wants to be birthed in and through us. So I was in ceremony all weekend with some of my innermost clients, and we spent several days together really being in a space of beingness and becoming, and in general, that's how I roll. I don't really have like an agenda for my events, and I trust that the energy will present what needs to occur. And so, from that deep place and with these women who are steeped in one, knowing themselves at the deepest levels, right? So they've done their work. They know their core woundings. They're unraveling all of the pieces of illusion that are hanging around them. They know how to work energy and to bring the shadows from their subconscious forward, and they are radically self-responsible and beautiful in so many ways. And so those elements come together to make something really alchemical possible. And what that looks like is an experience where we all get to play in being both teacher and student, where we allow ourselves to be in essence as much as we possibly can, and to be vulnerable in the places where it's not all love and light. So sometimes we're processing, sometimes we're grieving, or sometimes we're angry, or we're stuck, and also we are in sensuality and ecstasy and beauty and grace and peace and spaciousness. And one of the pieces that came forward so strongly for me this weekend was this concept of temple. And it's interesting because I actually have never really used that term. My good friend Elaine, who was on the show last week, she uses temple quite frequently, and I actually believe that the weekly transmission that she does has temple in the title. I can't recall it in this moment, but so that has just felt like the home for other people. Like it hasn't been something that's been one of the words that really resonated with me until this weekend, where I literally experienced it for days and days on end. And along with that, actually a very full past life memory of being in the temple and what it was like to live in the temple. And I kept saying, this is exactly what we used to do in the temple. We did all of this. And then what I could see is that there was this way that, like, as we luxuriated in the goldenness of this space, where, it was all women, that we were beautiful. We were serving one another. There was, there was vision and insight and art and creativity and music and beauty and, all of these things that for me have felt somewhat frivolous, or like, first I got to do these things. And then when all of these things are done, when people are awake and consciousness has happened and we've shifted the paradigm, then we can go do something like that. Then we can paint a picture, which I love to paint pictures. Or then we can learn to play the guitar or sing our songs or, lay around together celebrating, right? But what I could see in this vision was actually how us holding the temple in that way. And it was very clearly in holding it, like, it wasn't like we held the temple so that something would happen. We held the temple in that way because that is the end, the means and the end, right? It was the point. And there was no looking outside. There was no checking to see how is this affecting the rest of the world. And yet I could see from this bird's eye view that it was indeed affecting the world. It was literally holding the center. And so the vibration that was being laid there was actually holding a field over the entire. I don't know if it was bigger than a city, and it might have been bigger than a country, but it was like, it felt like the whole civilization. It was this beautiful. Yeah, it was this. I'm just having a download right now. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to an event this weekend, which most of those women also were part of that temple. So that makes a lot of sense why that was downloading. And it's, so the temple is coming to me. It's coming to find me. And I so revel in that, because what a mystery. What a mystery. And what a beautiful experience to see that really, on an even deeper level than I already knew, that essence is enough. That beingness and experience is enough. And also, that what we're doing here as we play with building this new paradigm, sometimes it feels really difficult and it's confusing, because it's like, how do we work within these structures that already exist, where we have to set goals, or we feel like we need to, create structures or move certain things or do. We're straddling all of this masculinity that's so ensconced in where we are. And how do we, can we just lay down in beingness? Is it even safe to do that? And who would we do it with? And what would we, what would it look like? And where do we even begin, right? And so it was really beautiful to have the experience of witnessing really what that was like, and to feel it being downloaded to me in a way of possibility, so I'm very alive with it in this moment. And that's really what I'm wanting to transmit to you. So feel it on a level beneath your mind, right? Because if your mind is trying to figure out how you could create an event like this, or be in one, or get invited to one, or, it's not about that. It's like, so there's a way that there's this temple, right, where there's this gathering of women, and there's an actual building, or there's a place within which these women are gathering. And then there is our temple, our individual temple, right, which is the one that we are required to attend. And this temple is the one that has you get invited to the bigger temple, right? This inner temple is the one where your soul lives, where your essence resides. And it's in this place that you have full access to discerning, what is here? What stories are here that are not me? What's in the way of this place being golden? What can I do to bring creativity and freshness into this space? And there's this beautiful vision, actually, of, so when the divine feminine and the divine masculine are in right relationship, what that ought to look like is the divine feminine. So let's imagine this two ways. So first of all, if it was outside of us, right? So if I am a female and then I'm interacting with my husband, so as the female, I would be in divine creativity, right? And so that would involve all of the levels of creativity. So I am in here tending my energy, ideas are flowing through me, creations are happening in my imagination and in my energy space, right? And so as I flow that creativity through me, then the divine masculine is really holding the space. So that might be in the form of my husband who says, hey, pool workers, you have to be quiet right now while the radio show is happening. Or, he goes and picks up the kids so that I can do a coaching appointment. Right? So he's tending the edges. And then there's the space where the divine feminine and the divine masculine also are operating, both of them, within our own temple. So within the temple of you have a divine feminine that ought to be holding your center, right? So it's this kind of Kundalini DNA looking strand in your center where, there's this turning of life force, right? And that is given space and room to be and to grow and to flow. And outside of that, there are activities happening. And those activities are your divine masculine, right? Where you might be saying, I need to rest today, or I'm going to meditate now, or a walk in nature would allow me to have the spaciousness that I need. So I'm a yes to this and I'm a no to that, right? So there's this divine feminine and masculine within us that also need tended. So as I'm feeling into this right now, I can feel the myriad levels of temple, right, that need tended as we begin to play with embodying this new paradigm. And recently I was invited to an event for, so there's this feeling of a call to action, right, of how can we come together as new paradigm feminine leaders and actually do something different than what has been done before. And so, some very brave women started to pull a group together and say, okay, let's meet and let's talk about this. And, we're just finding our way through that because, it's hard to know what feels right and what should we do. And what it feels like to me is that really what's being called forward is really embodiment. So we've been talking about this stuff for a long time. We've been talking about the ideas and we've been talking about, the doing, right? How can we do something different? And what I received so beautifully this weekend was more of an experience of actually just beingness. Like, what would happen if we just laid around together? What would happen if we allowed ourselves to come with no agenda and just actually temple together? Just temple together. So we come in the wholeness and the undoneness of our own temple, right? We bring all of us to bear. And from that space, we just drop in when we let go. We let go of form and structure and idea and creation, and we allow ourselves to move into a space of becoming the oracle, right? Of being the vision that is wanting to move through us. And what it feels like to me is every time we try to make it something, we're sort of in the way of this beautiful rainbow colored life force that wants to move through all of this creation that's wanting to be birthed. And we keep slowing it down by trying to make something of it, right? Literally. And so I get curious about what would happen if women began to just gather in these ways of holding and being together and allowing yourself to know and be known on the deepest levels, And my sense is that the structure, even all of our constructs of the ideas of the structure need to go away. So, we've been trying it coming into circle and, meeting in sisterhood groups and things like that. And I'm not saying that those things are wrong, but I just feel like there's still a lot of masculine process in that, And until this moment, I would not have believed or said any of this until I finally dropped into such a space where, I actually got to experience the beauty of what really is possible from this space. So I'm just going to say a little bit more about, some of the things that, like what it may look like in a space like that. But for me, because I am so firmly ensconced in this thought form around everyone being both teacher and student, and goodness, we had so many lessons around that this weekend where, we did work on past lives, where, we saw past lives where, one woman has many lives as being like the novice or the initiate or the student, right? And then so many lessons for her around what happens when you give up your power, and what happens to you and what happens to the teacher when that is the case. And of course, because we've all been everything, then lives on the other side of that coin of what happens when you're the teacher who lets everyone give them their power, and what happens when that is the case. And, we had themes around making promises, like even when they're from a good place of like, I promise I can help you, or I can save you, or, I can do this thing for you. Trust me, really, I can do this. And, the lessons of how that only sets everyone up for getting let down and hurt. And so it's like, what I feel is being downloaded right now are these lessons around the nuances of the specificity that's required, right? As we navigate these new terrains, there is literally nothing that can go on autopilot, because every time we go unconscious, even the tiniest bit in our language or in our structure or in our walking a path because we're busy and we've walked a path kind of like this before, so we'll just do it a little bit like this thing, then we end up getting sucked right back into those old paradigm energetics, which are so strongly woven through everything. And it was finally clear to me, because I think I've been talking about, I think I've talked about it here. I've certainly been talking about it everywhere else, that I have this event that I've been trying to plan. And for almost 6 weeks now, every time I go to sit down and make any structure around it, like even what is it called and how much does it cost, and invite the people that I intend to invite, I keep getting, I draw a card that says, wait, go inward, be inward, wait. And it's been very unclear to me. And what I thought was being called for was like, you need to meditate more, right? Or maybe there's some information you're going to get if you meditate that you won't get if you just think. And I was like, yeah, I know, I get that. I am going to meditate. I will meditate sometime between now and when the event happens. And can we just move forward with the inviting so people can get plane tickets, And this weekend, what I was really present to was the larger why. Like I always have to know the why. I have to be convinced of these things. And what I really saw was that we cannot do the new paradigm by being just a little bit available for it, by just being kind in. We literally must actually be fully present. We have to be in that space of walking in the dark, of not actually knowing, of embracing the space of I do not know, because it's in that space of humbleness, of newness, literally newness, where we're not doing something we've already done before, that truly the birth of the new paradigm can happen. And so, I get it. Like I get the uncomfortableness of that space, and gosh, it's certainly not a place that I love to live, and yet I'm constantly returned to it as the place where magic and mystery actually lives. That's where it actually lives. So let's just all take a breath into that. Let's take a breath into the vastness of the unknowing. Yeah, and in some ways, that vastness is actually so peaceful. Really allowing ourselves to surrender into the awareness that we know nothing. If you watch Game of Thrones, you know nothing, Jon Snow. One of my favorite lines, right? Which we all could use a little reminding of, because even the most competent, capable, brilliant ones of us know comparatively nothing. And the less we know, the more free we are. The less we know, right? Because if you think about it, what can you know? You can only know what has been, right? You can only know the what isness of either this moment or other moments. But what we don't know is what wants to be birthed, what is to come. And what I find is that the more I sit in that place of not knowing, the more I become the oracle, right? Where information comes through me, where life is breathed through me, where creations burst forth from me, from their own volition, you know? And really what I'm learning is that my part in the dance is to allow that, to know myself at such a deep place that I know my tendencies, I know how I operate, I know where I might want to step in the way. And I move the parts of me that would be in fear of surrendering. You know, I dance with the parts of me, with my nature, so that as things are being born through me, I can ride the dragon of the creation, right? Rather than have to keep it in its box or, fear my ability to ride it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what I was flowing so much in this space, and I can envision actually this event that I was planning. I was intending it to be something that is very like something I've done before. And I actually, when I was getting the weight cards, I kept also getting cards that were saying, like the Phoenix card, like you have to die to the way that you've done things before. And I'm telling you, that's a rough card to draw, especially when you've done things very well before, I think. I think the better they've gone, it's almost the harder it is to die to them, because you're like, yeah, but really, that last one worked pretty well and people loved it and I made some money and, and I know how to do it. So now that I have the template, could we just do it one more time? And, for some of us, we might get to do it one more time or even a couple more times. And I'm clear that for my path, there's very little that I get to do a second time. It's pretty much all groundbreaking and trailblazing. And I'm learning that is my own particular fingerprint of essence. That is what my temple looks like. Is it's always being, it's the temple of perpetual and reconstruction. That's just coming forward to me in this moment, but that is my temple. And it's very Kali-ish. It's very, very much destroying and creating and destroying and creating and destroying and creating. And I get so curious, sisters, about what your temple is. What your particular fingerprint will look like as you bring it to bear when we gather in our larger temples. As we come together to share the fullness of who we really are. Because every piece of it is so important. We had the beauty of having a kind of smallish gathering this past weekend. And what was so evident was the piece that each woman brings. We actually had nearly all of the templates, the soul medicine paths represented there, and various combinations of even the same ones. And so it was really beautiful to watch how, the shapeshifter medicine brought her sensuality around service. And so tending and service while also being the fullness of herself. And, the great mothers holding and loving, and the heroine bringing her her desire for peacemaking and holding people together while also learning to stand in her own space and with her own knowings and humbleness. And I mean, just beauty. And, of course, our rugged warriors bringing precision to language and checking and challenging the edges and adding fire to the alchemy when something needed blown up, And so, the invitation always, and even more so today with, I think, in some ways, some urgency. I was just double checking. Is it urgency? It is. It's urgency and love. It is a loving, fierce call inward to say, inward is the only way. You must go in and tend your temple. You must be present with what's so for you. You must start offloading and tending the cobwebs and the boxes of stuff that is stacked within your own space that you haven't gotten to yet, that you think you're going to do later, and clean that stuff out, because it feels to me like the directive has been laid and the gatherings will be commencing. And these gatherings are unlike what has come before. They're unlike anything you could imagine. And they really are, as they occur, it looks to me like these seeds are actually being planted deep, deep, deep in the earth for the light grid to begin coming online, like actually coming online. And so the time for talking is over. It at least is coming to a less, to a time for less of the talking, more vibration, more embodiment, more presence. So that what wants to move through actually has the portal to do it. If this is feeling like this is making no sense to your brain, that's actually a good thing, because we've done the brain thing a really long time. And what's happening now is something different. It's time to get back below our necks and actually luxuriate in the fullness of us coming more forward into all that we are. It was wild, actually, as I had set the topic, or selected that this would be what I would talk about today. And as the theme music began playing, I thought, of course, I am a temple who walks the earth, right? From our opening song by Jess Johnson. And it is time for that, So if you're walking this earth not feeling like a temple, if you're walking this earth feeling like, a broken down old used car, then your temple needs tending, sister. And there's no one to tend it but you. And I keep having this. This actually, it was kind of wild. There was a download that happened in the space this weekend where someone came in from another room and I said, "Welcome to our den of iniquity." And none of us actually knew what that meant. So I've heard the term, but I didn't actually know the etymology. And when we looked it up, it was, there's many references, but one of them is Jesus clearing out the den of thieves, right? The money changers. And I feel that, like, I actually feel like that is what is being called for us to do in our own spaces, is to get fierce with. No more of this shit. No more of this playing small. No more of this waiting. No more of this running around in your life, doing a lot of stuff and thinking that at some point something's got to change and somehow it's going to happen outside of you. But actually moving your butt right into the center and claiming your priestessy way right back to your return. That's what's being called forward. And then the other piece of the etymology of the den of iniquity actually has to do with, claiming a space in a way that is opposite of prevailing morality, right? And prevailing thought forms, that this is the way we gather as women, or this is the way that we should or should not be doing something. But, if we just keep doing more of what we know, if we just keep doing more of what we have seen, then we're going to keep producing and experiencing more of what has been. And so the invitation is for us to get a little crazy, to get a little upsetting, to get a little untamed. And as we start wiping all of the bullshit off the table, then we see what wants to emerge on the other side of that. What is behind it waiting to come through? Yeah. And what I see is, it's not about goals. It's not about intending. It's not about having an agenda. It really is just community and authenticity and connection and deep seeing and knowing and arriving as we hold ourselves and heal each other. And as we do that, we create this remembering and trust, and it awakens and builds our alliances, and it strengthens our network of new paradigm space holders. And it allows us to rest in the knowing of ourselves. And from this deep space of templing within ourselves, of tending and knowing that space within us, which is our golden mean, which is the truest, most invariable nature of who we are, our essence, our own fingerprint. As we tend that and love her back into glory, alliances will form, our resolve will strengthen, visions will reveal themselves, and cities will be built. And all the while, we'll just be templing. And so with that, I feel called to lead us to an energetic experience of what I've just been laying here. And so I invite you to close your eyes and let go of whatever you might have been multitasking with. And allow yourself to feel the transmission that's wanting to make its way in. So begin calling your energies forward, returning them back into the center of your awareness from all the places they've been living. Imagine calling them home, like birds home to roost, welcoming them in. And as that occurs, begin to feel what is present in your system. And imagine now that you can drop right down and through your own midline. That you could drop a golden cord right from the center of your awareness, down through your throat and your heart. Imagine sending it with your powerful sorceress breath right down through your belly, down into your yoni, and feel Mother Earth calling you with her heart. Feel her heart calling this golden thread, this golden cord, imagining that as her heart sings its siren song to you, that you begin to unleash your cord down to meet her in her center. And allow it to be easy. Let the wisdom of your system, rather than the wisdom of your mind, be in charge of this. Your mind has no idea what's going on, and that's a good thing. Here we are traversing unknown waters. But there is a remembering deep, deep inside you. There is a remembering of what is calling, of what you once were, of what you still are. Imagine your cells beginning to open and surrender and relax into that remembering. And I really do like to imagine it as a re-membering, right? It's not a brain thing. It is a putting together, a putting back together of the isness of you. And so as that occurs, just imagine the golden memories of the golden ages, where we were in the temple, where we were happy, where everything was shiny and beautiful and new. Allow the remembering of that to open inside your system so that you could be transported in this moment to that place of already done, of once was. And if the emotions begin to move in you, allow that to be so. Allow your heart to expand. Allow your tears to rinse away any of the fogginess or cobwebs. Feel in your system the beauty of lying back and being held and seen and loved and healed, of enjoying beauty and pleasure, the kind, gentle touch of a sister who loves you. Loving so deeply that it feels like the whole world could love through you. And as you begin to settle into the expansion of this feeling, notice the temple that you already reside in. Notice, if you were to imagine looking up, what the murals on the ceiling might look like. Notice the ornate columns, the beautiful pillows that you might be sitting on. Notice the sacred pools of water. Feel the container within which you hold yourself. And allow yourself forgiveness if it doesn't look as if it should or as if you remember it in this moment. Allow it to be so easy that with a breath you can create anything. That you can gold wash the walls again. That you can light some candles. That you can allow a breeze, the most gentle of breezes, to blow through and caress your face. Mm-hmm. You are a temple who walks the earth. Mm-hmm. And so, dear sister, I invite you to tune into your heart, to be with whatever is there for you today in this moment. Whatever has been wanting to come through that you might now say hello to, or that you might just move out of the way of. And I invite you to be free, to not try to use your mind to make it be anything or to slow it down in any way, but just feel your deep commitment to allowing it to be so. It came through your temple. It knocked at your door. It chose you as the oracle to move through. And so just celebrate the honor of that. And so it is. And so it is, and so it is. All right, my sisters. So as I feel into where we are, I'm just going to check in and see if there's any last thing that wants to be shared. Yeah, it feels really complete. That was a lot, right? It was a lot. And it's, it's a lot different than our typical shows. And it feels to me like that was just a transmission that wanted to happen. And so I trust that that there is medicine in there for you. And whether you understand it or not, that it begins to work in the system and in the space and in and upon the temple of our earth, as we all tend our spaces and open to all that is moving through. So I'm actually off to Temple this weekend. I'll be in California for several days, and then next week I'm taking the week off to drop in and make my medicine drum, which has been in process since the beginning of this year. So I'll actually be deep in ceremony, meeting and calling in and pulling my drum and celebrating her and opening the portal for her arrival. So I will not be here live with you next week. We will not have a show. So happy summer to all of you. And then we will be returning the following week, which is Wednesday, June 24th, with special guest Liz DeAlto. And so I'm looking forward to sharing her with you as well. As always, if you want to listen to any shows, you're certainly welcome to do that. There are many that are there for you to check in with to support your growth and evolution and the tending of your temple. So until next time, my loves. Bye for now.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. Illumination for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake.